Welcome to 5 in 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I review 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Star Trek Frontiers, the Star Trek re-theme of Mage Knight. I'm a fan of Mage Knight's solo design, I'm a fan of Star Trek. How do I feel about them being married together? Let's find out and get to the list. I'm starting out with a mix at my number 5, which is focused on the AI sort of opponent you have in the game. In basic terms, they act as a timer on each of their turns, discarding 3 or more cards based on some random elements. And on the positive side, I like that there's a bit of interaction with the AI in that you can control which advanced action cards and undiscovered tech cards go to them, and that kind of gives you some control over the tempo of the game. Also, they are very fast and simple to run. You just flip a few cards and you're back to the more interesting part of the game, your turn. The only reason this isn't a full pro for me is because if you want something a bit more complex, if you want something that's more confrontational, the core game doesn't have it. Now, just like Volcar in Mage Knight, if you buy the Con expansion, if you can find it, then you can get that sense, and then I think this would be upgraded to a full pro, but just in the core game, it's a pretty simple system. Next, I have a full Con for my number 4, one that this game system is fairly notorious for, and that's the rules and how they're organized. And the big negatives here, at least for me, and I've heard this from a lot of people, are that they're too diffused and nothing is really simple to get you into the game. They have a walkthrough that takes you through things, and that's pretty nice, but then the rules reference, although it kind of has all the rules, it doesn't have like which parts of a card are which, so if you want to relearn the game, or if you're a fan of the Mage Knight system like I was, I had a lot more trouble getting into this than I thought it would, because I had to flip between the two books. And then, of course, they also have these cards that show you what things are and you can reference. But the cards have the rules in a better way than the rules reference, but they might not have every detail, and flipping between 3 different sources for my rules is not an ideal circumstance for any game, let alone a more complicated one like this one. But it's time to get into the positives with my number 3, and I'm going to start there with the exploration and the choices you can make as you move around the board. So this is at its heart an adventure game, and for me, those live and die by the variety in what you can do, and there's a lot of cool stuff here. You can collect data crystals to build up for future turns, you can subjugate places that are peaceful, losing reputation and making diplomacy tougher in the future to get a short-term or sometimes long-term benefit. You can, in a very thematically Star Trek mechanic, go on away missions to planets and potentially risk some of your crew members, lots of fun, and overall the system has a nice sense of exploration and giving you this tug and pull of how quickly you want to explore, but how much you want to kind of exhaust all your options in your given space. My number 2 is also a pro, and it's focused on the upgrading systems in the game, because first of all, this is basically a deck builder. You can get 2 different types of cards, adding them to your deck, and you'll always have an offer of 3 to choose from, so you're not forced into things you can't use generally. But then you also get skills as you level up, and you can even use the AI's skills, so you can get like nice little combos there, and you recruit crew members that you can use every round, and it's nice to see a lot of my favorite Star Trek characters show up here. And on the whole, all of these options and the 4 different ships you can play as give a lot of variety to what the tools at your disposal on a given turn can provide you. And I have one more pro at number 1, a huge one for me, although for some players this could be a mix or a con, it depends on what you like in games, and that is the puzzliness of your turns. And this comes from a few main elements. First of all, every single card in your hand can be played sideways for a minor effect, which gives you some options, but on top of that, every card has an effect at the bottom that's more powerful if you use limited data resources from dice and crystals. So figuring out how you want to use those resources, how you want to play out your hand, especially when you get to those really complex fights and your hand has grown to 8 or 10 cards and you have all these amazing abilities, it can be incredibly epic, make you feel like a genius as you figure out that exact way to crush this entire huge Borg force. It is the high point of the game for me. So much fun when it goes well, but like I said, some players might find it too much, might find it frustrating that they have to play for 10 or 15 minutes to figure out how their turn will go, and this is why I will personally never play Mage Knight or Star Trek Frontiers as a co-op game or as a multiplayer game. Co-op kind of works if you just play 2-player, but even then, it's just so long to let people figure out their turns that I don't find that particularly fun. It's all solo for me. So overall, I think Star Trek Frontiers is a great design, and by extension, of course, so is Mage Knight. But I am talking just about solo play. Like I said, I'm not really going to play this cooperatively or competitively, and I do wish they had done a better better job with the rules. I wish it was organized in a better way. You might want to look on BGG for what somebody else has put together. I do think that solo is better with the expansion, same thing with Mage Knight. But the great feeling of exploration, the amazing upgrade options, and those awesome puzzles of playing out your tough turns make this a fun experience for me every time. If you want to see the game in action, click the link that just popped up to see Colin doing a full playthrough. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.